You can't see me. My time is now. Or at least in the case of Lane Hutson, his time is not now. According to Bill Guerin. Man, why you gotta be so mean? This is kind of a weird update. It's an unfortunate update. And it's one that I honestly have to swallow with a little bit of... what's the right word to use here? I'll swallow this piece of news with some level of comfort. Because while I don't necessarily think this will go over too well with Canadiens fans, I do think it's a pretty decent piece of news despite its negative context. So, today we are talking about Lane Hutson, Montreal's 21-year-old 5'10" left-handed defenseman. He's no longer 5'9", folks. He is 5'10". And he is at 6 points in 8 games played so far in the NHL season. On pace for roughly the same amount of points as he had last year, but he'll realistically start picking it up as the year goes on. I say that like he hasn't already scored a whole bunch of points this year. But Lane Hutson is a very good defenseman. He is one of the youngest, best guys to go out there and do their thing at this stage of their careers. And at some point, I don't think it'd be too improbable to think about Hutson as a potential Norris candidate one day. But all that, it's not now. I don't think anybody's projecting Hutson to winning any awards now. And at the same time, it doesn't look like Lane Hutson's going to be heading over to the Olympics now. Let's head over to this article published by Michael Trakos on the Hockey News, because what it does is it goes over Team USA's Bill Guerin and his commentary on Lane Hutson's Olympic bid. I don't know if his time is right now. Yeah, it's kind of disheartening for Lane, especially when you learn about what it is that he feels and how he wants to be on the Olympic squad. He wants to represent Team USA. We already had all the drama with his dad saying, oh yeah, if Lane doesn't represent Team USA, he could go over to Team Canada. But Hutson himself then came out and said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm USA, baby. Which makes sense. I mean, he was an NTDP player. Obviously, his heart should be with the Americans. But let's go out there and read what Bill Guerin went out there and spoke about in regards to Lane Hutson, and why this is quite unfortunate for the young Hab. Hutson was one of the 44 players named the Team USA's preliminary roster for the 2026 Olympics. But not surprisingly, the Montreal Canadiens defenseman is still considered a long shot to actually make the team. That much was made obvious when Hutson was originally not even invited to the orientation camp in August, which led to his Canadian-born father to not so subtly suggest that my boys are also Canadian, quote-unquote. And while Team USA corrected that slight by adding Hutson's name to a 44-man preliminary list last week, the fact remains that he is only 21 years old and has less than 100 games of NHL experience. He's a good player, but we only have room for so many players, Team USA GM Bill Guerin said in a phone interview on Tuesday. I don't know if it's his time right now. And that is the unfortunate truth about it. Hutson is young, Hutson is talented, but there are a number of other talented USA defensemen who are a little bit older, a little bit bigger, and who are more experienced. Now, does that necessarily dismiss Hutson from being a reputable contender for a spot just because he's younger? It shouldn't, but at the same time, I think this is kind of like that Oscar voting situation. If two candidates are really, really close and you can't really decide which one you'd rather vote for, you go with the one who has had a longer body of work, you go with the one who is more owed in a way, because the theory is the younger one would get another chance at some other time. If it gets down to the nitty-gritty, oh, I really can't choose, you'll use extenuating factors outside of each of the candidates' control to make your decision. Well, let's scroll down and read, along with this article, some of the other pieces of info that are included here. That's not exactly Guerin closing the door on Hutson, who, along with Vancouver's Thatcher Demko and Brock Besser, were added to the preliminary roster. But whether he forces his way onto the team will depend on what happens these next few months. After winning the Calder Trophy last season after leading all rookies with 66 points, Hutson has exploded out of the gates once again with a goal and 5 points in 7 games this year. Make that 6 points in 8 games now. And where are we? Here we are. Among U.S.-born defensemen, Hutson is tied for third in scoring while averaging 22-28 in ice time. If he keeps that pace up, he'll be a difficult guy to leave off the roster, especially if there is an injury. Everybody is concerned about that, Guerin said of the injury bug, which is currently keeping Americans Matthew and Brady Tkachuk sidelined. We understand it. It's a packed schedule this year. That's how it has to be in an Olympic year. One thing he'll consider is whether bringing Hutson along as a seventh defenseman makes sense, since he'll likely be a mainstay on the back end for years going forward. Chances are the Team Canada management is having a similar conversation about New York Islanders rookie D-man Matthew Schaefer, who leads all rookies with 7 points in 6 games. Goodness, he's over a point per game? That's ridiculous. In 2030, both Hutson and Schaefer will probably be playing against each other in the French Alps. But right now, USA has enough difficult decisions to make. And with this in mind, I always go back to the same thought process that we have brought up a number of times here on the YouTube channel when it comes to NHL defensemen being chosen for the Olympics. Team Canada always gets flack about this every single year they make their World Junior team, but Canada has the very strange differentiation of always trying to choose specific guys to fill specific roles. Canada doesn't necessarily go, all right, we'll just take the 18 best players who happen to be Canadian, draft them all here, and then toss them out there on the ice together. They go with some weird picks sometimes, and I'll admit it works out once in a while. In the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, you saw Brad Marchand selected as a random pick out of nowhere who eventually played with Sidney Crosby, and he was great. You see this happen with the World Juniors all the time. But for Team USA and their D-men, there is a very reasonable argument that you can say Lane Hutson might not actually have a role on this team. Who's going to man the point on the number 1 power play unit for Team USA? Well, it's probably going to be Quinn Hughes. Who's going to be the smaller, mobile, offensive defenseman? Well, you've got Quinn, and you also have Adam Fox. Both of these guys are pretty much locked to making the team. Say what you want about Luke Hughes, he could be in that conversation as well. And then you can't dismiss the guy who's number 1 in D-men American points right now, in Shane Gostisbehere. Sanderson is a minutes eater. He'll probably be selected as well, not to mention Charlie McAvoy, whose reputation is probably going to land him a spot. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Seth Jones or even a Jacob Trouba makes the team as well. Not saying necessarily that these are guys that are better than Lane Hutson, but what I am saying is that if you want to think about the roles, you already have a guy or two that fills the role that Lane Hutson has. Would you rather have a third guy who is arguably not going to be used to the best of his ability, or instead just go with some of the other players who can fill the same bottom pair minutes that a Lane Hutson would, whilst providing some extra intangibles like physicality and size? We didn't even mention Zach Werenski, who led the American defenseman points class last year. Now, this, of course, doesn't dismiss the idea that Hutson could be an option, but I do kind of sympathize with the idea that Team USA just has too many guys that they're probably already committed to, and thus makes it really difficult for Hutson to find a spot. So, with all that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. How do you feel about USA's Bill Guerin speaking out about Lane Hutson and his potential exclusion from the American Olympic team? How does that make you feel? Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think there's a learning experience here to be had? Or are you just kind of upset that Hutson is probably not going to be on the Olympic roster the way things stand right now? If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button is down there for you too. Thoughts in the comment section below, because comments help out with the algorithm and I'd really appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.